Welcome to Unconventional, where women play by their own rules. I'm your host, Desiree Wodicker, Muay Thai champ, mom, entrepreneur, and your daughter's favorite fighter. And today, ladies and gentlemen, this episode is all about girls who lift heavy, love hard, and refuse to shrink themselves. We are talking training, identity, nutrition, and all things fitness. Today, I have Miss Amanda Marie, aka Simply Manders, who is also a
Hi.
CrossFit coach at my gym. Welcome, Amanda. You are such an honor to have on the show, such a light, and I'm excited today to dive in deep with all the things that you have going on in your life. So welcome to the show.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I was literally captivated by you when you came to the gym. First of all, you guys, just for our audience to know, I was in there doing my butt workouts because I do those during the week. And Amanda was coaching the kids' CrossFit class, and she had this dope ass playlist. And I even told her that day, I was like, man, dope ass playlist. It was like all 90s stuff. And I was like, this is so awesome. So we like connected briefly at the gym. And then I learned, yeah, you came on board as a CSA CrossFit coach, and then we did the CrossFit Open together this year,
Yes.
and I saw you, and I was like, "Fuck, she's little. Like you're little, right,
Yes.
Amanda?
I'm 5'2".
Girl, when that shirt came off, you are fucking strong." And I was over there saying like, damn, look at this fucking girl go. She is so strong. And so I love that. I love that because I'm small. I'm a little ninja too. And it's like sometimes like when we wear all of our clothes, you can't really
Yes.
tell like, there's muscle underneath there and everything. And like when we have to take off our shirts, people are like, damn, they
Yeah.
work out.
Yes. There was this time I walked into Target and this guy, I was coming in the door when he was coming out and he looks at me. I had shorts on and he goes, "Oh, you don't skip leg day." And I will never forget that compliment. Like I think about that all the time. I'm like, thank you for making my entire year by that comment, sir.
Yeah, like winter is our worst season because we have to cover up all of our muscles. And it's like
Yes.
there's no inspo in that at all.
No.
I love that. I love that. So I'd like to know a little bit because I looked on your Instagram too, and I was like, man, she makes some fire ass content, and you have a lot of verticals going on in your life. And I'd like to take a step back because you mentioned Florida, right? So you moved to California recently, it sounds like.
Just recently, but not from Florida, actually. I moved here from North Carolina. I was
Oh,
in Florida first, then to the Midwest briefly, which I didn't like. Then I went back to the East Coast because I wanted to be on a coast. But interestingly enough, when I was leaving the Midwest, that was like a crazy time period for me. It was just speaking about like finding your identity. That was like really when I figured out like who I was and like
mm,
the people I was around. And I was just like, I cannot be in this environment. And so I wanted to go back to the East Coast, but I didn't love living in Florida. It was not my favorite. And
mm,
I didn't want it to be too cold. And so at the time, funny enough, I was like, okay, I want to go to a coast. I either want to go to California or North Carolina. And at the time, I was by myself and I was like, well, I don't really know if I can like afford where I want to live in California. So I'll pick the East. So I went out to the East. And then I ended up meeting Delaney there at a boxing gym. Funny enough,
oh,
was where, yeah, we initially met. She joined the gym right like a little shortly after I did when I first moved there. So this is 2022, I think that was.
okay.
So it was January of 2023 that we initially like became friends at the gym. And she took my strength class. I was the strength and conditioning coach at our boxing gym. And then we both kind of started boxing. So that was like where our initial friendship developed.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. And then she has family out here, obviously in California. And we had been friends for a whole year. And then shortly thereafter that, so this was like last summertime, she told me like, I want to move back to California eventually, like what are we going to do? And I was like, well, I wanted to go to California before I moved to North Carolina, and my lease was going to be up in January. So once we started dating, we had really only been like officially dating, even though we'd been friends, for a while, but we were only
Mhm.
dating for a little bit. And I was like, fuck it, let's just go. Let's just do it.
I
And
love
so we
that.
did it in January. Yep. And it has been amazing, like best choice I ever made for sure.
Wow. That's a bold move to go from an entirely different culture environment, because I grew up in the Bible Belt, right? Like I grew up in Missouri, Midwest. Maybe that's why we were drawn to each other, because I was like, oh, she's awesome. Her vibe is good. And it's
Yes.
always nice to meet a Midwest girl, Southern girl. I always connect, with those kind of people, and especially those women, and sharing those values. But moving from one side of the continent to another can be really scary. So it's cool when you have a partner to go through that scariness with and experience change, so it doesn't feel like so lonely, right?
Yeah, because I had done it. This will be the third time, like Florida to Iowa is almost cross country, and then there to the East Coast, same thing. And I was by myself. So,
Mm,
like, I felt a little bit more confident in my choice. And same with her.
mm,
Like, she had moved from California to North Carolina. So, like, we kind of had the experience together. And I think it was just one of those things where, like, I just didn't want to be by myself in North Carolina. And I was like,
hmm.
well, if I'm going to make a life changing decision, I'd rather do it with you. So, yeah, we just
Yeah.
did it, and it was great. Like, I'm so happy I made that choice.
Yeah. You know what else is really interesting is, how do you feel about it's like you've been in the fitness industry, I saw, over a decade on one of your
Yes.
posts,
Yep, yep.
and the culture is so different from that
Oh my gosh.
side of the US versus California.
Yes.
How different now, or like what are the lifestyle changes, that you're already a healthy person? So it's like you've made those conscious decisions for yourself. A lot of people are not healthy in the Midwest and the South and places like that, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so the culture is also different. So how do you feel like that's changed your perspective on life, just being from, the other side of the US?
Yeah, definitely a lot of culture shock. I will say though, in Florida, where I lived, kind of by Boca, was a little bit
Okay.
more like California in the sense where I think people really care about their appearance. I think that they care about their health and their fitness, definitely way more so than Iowa and North Carolina, I think. I struggled a lot in the CrossFit community in North Carolina because of
Mm,
those like very traditional views, and like it seemed to me very like clicky. So I definitely struggled with that, which is how I ended up in the boxing gym. Because when I first moved there, I joined a CrossFit gym, which is how I actually met one of my best friends, Cody, who then ended up leaving and moving to Florida. So then I was really by myself. Yeah. So I didn't love like the CrossFit community there as much.
sure.
And so I would say out here, it's kind of similar in the sense that like there's a lot of non-judgmental like mixed group. Like our gym, obviously, like we have a lot of MMA fighters, but then we have a lot of CrossFitters, and then there's like some power lifters thrown in there. Like I think that there's just
Mm,
a really cool diverse group of people who all are very much so like they want better for themselves and they want better
mhm,
for other people. And one thing that I love, 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 and what I love about you too is like a lot of times, and I found this to be in Florida, but not so much here, like if you are like nice to a girl or like as a fellow female, and you say something to them, like sometimes I would get hit back with like the like
mean girl
just that
vibes.
like very standoffish like kind of
Yeah.
judgy like look.
Yeah.
And it's hard because like they think that you're judging them or they think that you're being bitchy, but like we're not. And so like I'm sure you probably noticed like when I was in the gym, I would be like, hey, like I always make sure that I'm always like, hi, to make sure people don't think I'm like being mean or anything.
Yeah.
And so like when you said you love my playlist, I was like, yes, I was like women supporting women, like she's being nice. I love that, because like that really wasn't something I experienced, I would say, in like the
Yeah.
South. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be very clicky in the South, and
Yeah.
it can be very challenging. Like growing up, it was really hard because I was like definitely in the middle of like brown and white. My dad was very white, but a Marine, and like it was hard to fit in because they were so clicky. And if you're not like this certain mold, you don't
Yeah.
like. It's really hard. Yeah, and I really struggled with that growing up. Um, but the other thing, what you mentioned about CrossFit. So how long have you been doing CrossFit for?
10 years. Yeah, my very
Wow.
first time in a CrossFit gym was 2015.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. I feel like I talk about this a lot with women, and I actually support CrossFit a ton, because in my journey, when I first started fighting, been training for almost 10 years now also. And my Coach Kirian, he like forced me to go to CrossFit 3 days a week. Okay.
I love it.
And I would just with my, like, I'd scrape with my, hair, tooth, and everything about going in there because it was so hard. I'm a very competitive person. And so I always wanted to like RX stuff. I always wanted to like push myself, win, it was very competitive. And I didn't feel like I used CrossFit in the right way.
Mm,
And then there was like one day I was like, fuck Des, like CrossFit makes you stronger. CrossFit is competitive and it's making you a better athlete on the fight side. And so I had to like in my mind wrap around like, hey, CrossFit is good and don't dread doing it. And the experience
yeah,
has totally changed. But what I tell women today is like CrossFit can be a great community if you find the right gym, right?
yeah,
Because even out here, we have those CrossFit gyms that are super clicky and they're like, if you're not RXing things, like they're looking at you with a corner eye and it can be a bad
totally.
experience.
Very
Um,
intimidating for, like, someone that wants to join a gym for sure.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
at our gym, I feel like we have all walks of life. I mean, Lisa, for
totally.
example, she's like in her 60s and this lady's
She
slanging weight.
kills me. I love her. Shout out Lisa.
Shout out fucking Lisa, bro. We all want to be like you when we grow up, man.
Yes, yes.
Because, yeah, I feel like if you have the right coaches, it can be super encouraging, lots of fun, and challenging too. A way for you to like kind of push yourself past those boundaries. So, that's a long time that you've been doing CrossFit. Like, what would you tell people about CrossFit if they're trying to find, their a gym or starting a journey in CrossFit versus, let's just say, doing regular weight training or things like that?
Yeah, totally. I always tell this to people in particular because I am a very anxious person and I really don't like change and new things. It's very scary for me. And
Mm,
so when I was thinking about getting into CrossFit, my first time going to the gym that I started at, I drove into the parking lot and at that day that their workout they were doing like some farmer carries back and forth in the parking lot, and
mhm.
every single person that came out was like jacked, ripped, huge, like clearly had been doing, yeah, forever. And I literally sat in the parking lot and I was like, nope. And I just sat and then I drove away. Like I didn't do it because I was so scared. And then I was like, no, you have to do it. You have to try it. And so then the next day I went back and did it again. And I went in. And like if I didn't do that, I really don't feel like my life would be where it is today. Like it was so pivotal to join into a place that I had never been before. I'd never done CrossFit. I wasn't really like an athletic kid. Like I did dance. I was very big in like theater, but dance
Mhm.
was about the most athletic I would say I was. So like I felt very, very out of place. And I think if you're looking to try a gym, the best thing that you can do is feel the environment, much like if you're going on a date, like you will go and you can try the gym. Most CrossFit gyms normally offer a free drop-in or like a cheap drop-in or whatever. And you
Mhm.
can feel the environment. And I really, really feel like you'll know pretty much immediately, like if you like the vibe or you don't.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not something that you should feel like, of course it's okay to feel nervous and like, everyone does when they try something new, but like
Mhm.
the actual positivity and the energy in the gym, you'll know if you want to be a part of it or not.
Right,
So like
right.
that's what
Yeah,
you have to really lean into, I think.
that's good advice. There's one thing that you mentioned about, and I think that's such a huge part, and I don't want to skim over it, but you mentioned like the anxiety and the trying something new and being very intimidated. And the same, I feel like this becomes more common of a conversation with me and my guests about people trying new things. And if you look on my Instagram, I'm always telling people like, hey, new things are scary, change
Yeah.
is scary. But getting, I feel like a lot of people have to just get over that initial hump, that
Yeah.
initial weird feeling of something new. And
Totally.
there's like can be an entire new life beyond that little piece of anxiety that may be holding you back. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're spot on, like with the initial hump of being scared. And I think that really, the more that you do it and the more that you put yourself in those situations, obviously, just like with anything in life and especially in training, the easier that it gets. And the one thing that has always helped me personally is when I think about like I think it's a quote actually, I don't know from who, so forgive me, but someone said like no one doing better than you will ever judge you for trying. And
Yes.
I just love that so much because I know that like I purposely want to surround myself with people who are better than me at these things, whether it's CrossFit, boxing, whatever, because you can
Hmm.
learn a lot from them. And if they really are like truly good people, which obviously, I mean, from my experience at our gym, not to be like biased, but like they are, they want to help you and they want to see you succeed. And like,
Mm,
that's just so, so important. And in order to get there, you do have to cross over that like scary feeling of trying something new, because everybody that was once a beginner at whatever their craft is, like no one just steps into a CrossFit gym on day one and is like
yeah.
the best at it.
Yeah.
So, or with MMA or boxing, same thing.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like my body, so I first started going to CSA and doing the free Saturday classes.
Yeah.
And Amanda, this was nothing. This was like body weight, no barbells really at any point. And my body hurt
Oh, I'm
for like,
sure.
it was like a good 3 to 4 months that I would literally go do CrossFit, go home and sleep. Like
Yeah,
I
people
was
don't
stressed.
realize if they've never done it before, like how intense it can be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And again, like I feel like if I had just like kind of I could have definitely given up. I could have definitely given up, but I was like, no, I'm gonna keep doing this. Gym is so much fun. Like I'm gonna just
Yeah.
keep trying this out. And again, I think that's like a really good message for people because the more we put ourselves in uncomfortable foreign situations, the more we get accustomed to trying new things and having an open mind about life, right?
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
yeah, I mean, your mindset has probably completely changed from living in North Carolina and Florida to now being in California and seeing way different lifestyles and customs than you saw on the East Coast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And even like too with boxing, because I had never boxed before. I even tried like I forget what it was. Maybe it was BJJ. I think I tried. That was not for me. I did not enjoy rolling around on the floor with men. So that was out for me. I was like, I can't do this. Um, but yeah, then I got into boxing and I
Balls in your
realized,
face.
no, literally, I was like, no, not for me.
What do they call it? Not what is it? Not 69, but yeah, it is
Yeah,
69. It's
yeah,
like
yeah. No, I was like, no, I can't." And like the bare feet, no, it's not for me. But that's okay because I tried it and I knew like no way. But my CrossFit experience, I think, really helped me in boxing. Granted, I'm
mm,
like not the most fluid because I'm so used to being like stiff and rigid for lifting and CrossFit. But like I think
mhm.
my strength and my explosiveness helped so much. And so like, I had to think about that. Well, if I'd never put myself out there and tried the CrossFit, I wouldn't have this background for boxing. And then if I never tried boxing, I wouldn't know that I really enjoyed it. And so like, and if you don't, just like I didn't with BJJ, then like you tried it and you can
Yeah.
say like, yeah, I know I tried it and didn't like it, as opposed to what if you don't know? So
Yeah.
that's always what I think of anyway.
Yeah. My old partner at Morgan Stanley, he's a really interesting guy. But he told me that he and his wife, every 3 months or 6 months, they pick up a new craft. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Something completely different than what they're normally doing inside their family. And they will try it out for 3 to 6 months. And if they like it, they continue doing it. If they don't like it, or if they do like it, if they do like it, they continue doing it. If not, they're just like, all right, we'll move on to the next thing. But they make it a habit to try something new on like a quarterly basis. And the interesting thing about that is that his wife took up calligraphy
Oh.
and they live in Napa. And so she actually turned it and she loved it so much. She turned it into a whole business.
Oh,
And now,
wow.
yeah, it's crazy. She does all weddings and everything with the cards that go on the table and event
Oh,
planning, and she does
cool.
the calligraphy for it.
Yeah, but like she wouldn't have known that if she never tried it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Mhm.
Never, never. And I myself, I mean, I never thought I would be here doing, being a professional Muay Thai fighter if I wouldn't have gone to CSA and just had an open mind about my
Yeah.
life and trying new stuff.
Totally. I think that's the best way because you're just so, like you said, you're more open to other things. And I think
Yeah.
that like that mentality can really translate into other aspects of life as well. Like when difficult things are thrown at you, you are
Hmm.
more likely to think that you can be molded and change and adapt and things like that because you put yourself in uncomfortable situations before on
Yeah.
purpose.
Love that. Yeah, on purpose, right? You start craving it and it's
Yeah.
really a bizarre cycle. So all right. So in terms of, so you're a savage, dude, and you've literally, I want to talk about some of the savage business stuff that you have done. You have quite the portfolio of things that are available on your Instagram, from nutrition to, I saw a really cool dumbbell workout that you have available for people. And so in terms of what you're doing from a business standpoint, when did you start making fitness? Is that the only thing that you do in terms of like everything around fitness? And how did that start becoming more real for you?
Yeah, so initially I wanted to be a cop. That was my like
Oh,
very yeah, I know. Like I came from a very different like world of life. And I realized that like if I was going to make it in the academy, like I needed to be stronger. So that was how I got into fitness in the first place.
mm,
But then when I fell in love with CrossFit and I fell in love with the feeling that you get when you I'm sure you've experienced this too. Like when you help someone do something and then they like achieve it, whatever it may be, like their first something or they win or whatever.
hmm
It was such like a gratifying feeling that I really enjoyed. And initially, when I thought like that was kind of my thought about being a police officer. And
mm,
then as the years went on and I saw like the different changes in that field and how it became, it really like wasn't the same. And I felt I was getting more like heartwarming and more cup filling from doing
mm,
the stuff like that I was just doing for free with people at the gym. And then I started coaching CrossFit, and then I realized how important the nutrition side of things were. And so back then, when I was like, I think what I was like 21 or 22, then I switched my major, and then I went into exercise science and then nutritional science, and that's kind of how I
wow.
like the progression. Yeah, my original associates was in criminology, like that was where I started, and then I switched twice before even finishing, and it took me forever. And so yeah, so then I switched into nutrition, and I just happened to be really like great at nutrition. It just
hmm
came easy to me. I think I was blessed that I didn't grow up in a household where like food was like an issue. Like my mom never made me feel like had like a bad relationship with food or anything
mm,
like that. So I've always had a very balanced approach to it. And I think that
mm,
helped me in CrossFit because I didn't ever go to like the extremes.
hmm
And so then I kind of got into that. Like I want to help people reframe their mindset around food. So
Ooh,
yeah, so then I went back and got my nutritional therapy practitioner cert, which I got in 2020, I think. And then ever since then, I've been working with Black Iron Nutrition since 2018, and I've been
nice.
with them since then. Yeah, as a nutritionist and NTP, and that's really like I love that because I think a lot of people there's a lot of, as you know, misinformation in the fitness world, but I feel even more so in the nutritional side. So
hmm
I kind of like to be that like grounding middle for people where it's not like I'm, a super high level CrossFit athlete that's it's my entire life, but I'm also not like off the rails, not ever paying attention to what I eat. Like I think it's pretty balanced. And I think
Nice.
that mindset is a litlittle bit like lacking in nutrition. So
Yeah.
um yeah, it's like a long-winded answer to say like I fell in love with the
No,
balance of nutrition to help people. Yeah.
I love that, and I want to go a little deeper and talk about because you said relationship with food, and
Mhm,
this is something that in our coaching program at the Champions Blueprint, I hear women talk about all the time, and
mhm.
they all have their various reasons, but a lot of them it boils down to the relationship with food.
Yeah,
And one of the big things that we have within the program is hypnotherapy and a mindset coach to help shift people with their mind frame around food. And it's beautiful when you see that transition happen. It takes time
totally.
to kind of change your taste buds, I feel like, and change why you're eating foods and what is the reason and the purpose around the certain foods that you eat. But
Mhm.
I believe I've never been a gluttonous person. I believe everything in moderation, even in moderation. And I tell people all the time, hey, I work out so I can have margin, so I can eat the things that I want to eat, right?
Yeah.
But go into that a little bit deeper in what you've seen, specifically with women and relationship around food and how to start changing that mindset around food if you have a maybe a bad one.
I think that a lot of women, it's been ingrained in our brains, like just with society, that we need to be smaller. And so the only way that people feel they can control that is with food, usually.
Mm,
And so I think a lot of times when that relationship with food starts to get dangerous, I think what I like to ask people is what the emotion is that they're feeling that's causing them to make the decisions that they're doing. And a lot of
mm,
times it can be like stress, sadness, like they're eating either to compensate fear of gaining weight or they're stressed of something or they've lost care about how they look. Like there's always some deeper rooted feeling. And
Mhm.
so obviously I'm not a therapist, but like, I try to help people understand where the root is coming from and how to disconnect it from the food itself, which is really, really hard. And
Mhm.
some practices I have people do is like, if they have that feeling, they notice it coming up, like we'll journal it. I have them then do something else, like a different activity, like rerouting their brain to not initially reach for the food, but to, reach for something that's a bit more physical, like going outside, or even like
Yeah.
some people who they don't want to get into that habit of like working out when they feel that way, like
Mhm.
they'll go take a shower, something that's more self-care. So like it just kind of starts with figuring out where and why it's coming from.
Mm.
And I think another thing for people who have a poor relationship with food, it can often be because their parents or their mom like got them into diet culture really early. So
Mm.
something that works for them is showing them like scientific factual information, whether that be studies or explaining how the body metabolizes or explaining how insulin works or glycogen,
Mm.
like them understanding that like fat doesn't make you fat or carbs after 7 p.m. don't make you gain weight. Like sometimes for those people, it's more factual proof and not so much emotions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I think that's great. I was talking to one girl recently who, and it was so sad. I was like, oh my gosh, we have to help her. But she had moved here from out of the country and she hadn't seen her family in a long time. And she was she was in a relationship. She got a divorce and then she moved to another state here in the US. And she said that, she felt very lonely. And the only thing that brought her comfort was eating because her family back home was relatively large and
Mm,
she would always get together with her family. Her mom would cook for all the siblings, and that was their way and time that they shared together. And so she ate because it brought comfort from
mm.
missing her family.
Yeah. And that's like, what can you do with that? Like you can't really
So
bring the
hard.
family here. So like, yeah, understandable. And
Yeah.
sometimes for those kind of people that have, like, very specific, traumas, if you wanna, label it as that, like,
Hmm.
trying to understand how they can get support and how they can feel supported without the food side of things, like, whether that's, like, scheduling a FaceTime with her family and doing
Hmm.
something, there's it sucks because there is a lot of pathways that lead to this, like, negative connotation around food, and
Yeah.
so much of that is fueled by the diet industry, like, outside of people who have, like, traumas that deal with it. But like the diet industry in general, because we had things like in the early 2000s, like Slim Fast and Jenny Craig
Hmm.
and all that stuff. And like Weight Watchers, like I still have clients that come to me that like fail from Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's so fascinating because like those industries were set up for them to fail so that they keep doing it. So we have
Yeah.
to like break that apart and figure out like what it is that they're not understanding about it, whether that's
Right.
emotional or like I was saying, like logical, and it just depends, I think, on each individual person's,
Yeah,
needs.
what's happened in their life, their own
Yeah.
human experience that they've
Mhm.
had. Yeah, and
Exactly.
that's why I feel like in our coaching program, we have, you know, all the cornerstones. We have the fitness, but with the nutrition, and then we have the mindset coaching in there because everybody is so different. And
Mhm.
rewiring the brain, you can't just do that by giving a meal plan. Like you do
No.
need support, like on the mindset side. Would you agree?
Totally. Like I tell people all the time, I can tell you how to eat or what to eat, but like once you're done with me, how are you going to make those decisions in the future? You can't just like blindly follow a plan because you don't
Mm,
know why you're eating it. You don't know, what the reasoning is behind it. So I think educating and like really getting people to understand why they're doing what they're doing, whether it's
mhm.
good or bad, is really, really helpful.
Damn. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's crazy. Yeah, nutrition is highly underrated.
Yes.
Highly, highly underrated. I tell people all the time, you should at least get some kind of meal plan, something for your body, get blood work done, figure out the foods that, your body is happy with, what they're not happy with, work with somebody, a nutritionist, at least once in your life. You could be eating something that could be giving you some kind of symptoms that you had no idea. And
Totally. Yes.
food is really powerful. And I love it on your content. So let's go to your content really fast because I was on the CrossFit Open. I saw your girlfriend Lainey. She had her like nice ass camera and she was recording you. And I was like, damn, this girl's content's next level. I love it. And I got cameras and gadgets and everything. I spent thousands of dollars on this shit.
Oh, yeah.
And and I liked a lot. You had a really good, mixture of not just, fitness stuff, but nutrition. personal skincare and all of these things like that are all feminine,
Yes.
attributes. And I love that. And you have like really good recipes, easy recipes for people to eat and live a healthier lifestyle. And so what does that look like from a content creation standpoint? Like, you're doing your nutrition work. You have your coaching program online, you're coaching in person with people. And then you also have other things going on from just the social media aspect. And so how has that grown for your brand and for everything you've created?
It's exhausting. Honestly, if I'm being really honest, it really is because I always
Yeah.
feel like I don't know like what to post sometimes because I feel like it's so oversaturated in our industry in general that I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't want to be like beating a dead horse. I want to just provide me. And so I think that's kind of what it shifted to. When I started my YouTube channel in 2015, I think like I was mostly because I was working overnights at the police department at the time. And so
Mm,
I was trying to like I guess show the balance of like overnight shifts and training CrossFit and learning CrossFit. So like that was definitely more educational. And
mm,
then as the years went on, like you can only talk about educational stuff like there's enough of it. So like
yeah.
I got to a point where it started that it was like more lifestyle. And then I realized that like a lot of other females also liked, like the beauty side of things. Like I'm really, really into like skincare and hair care and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, well, it doesn't have to be like just fitness, like it can be
Yeah.
kind of everything. And I would say like now I would just consider it more like lifestyle, I guess. Like I kind of just like vlog. And then
Hmm.
if there's something that I feel comes up that's has an educational purpose or like a recipe,
Hmm.
I'll include it. But I think over the last 10 years, I've put so much into YouTube and videos and educational stuff that like people can just reference it. And I don't necessarily have to like try to reinvent the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like now in the world that we're living, because I feel like there's a lot of women out there, a lot of young women as well, that are picking up and understanding that they can create these brands on social media, making a living from it. And they don't necessarily have to take the traditional route of going to college and doing something, that's in a wheelhouse of what social norms is. And they can
Yeah.
kind of, do things that they have more passion about and purpose for what they like.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's definitely a lot more common nowadays. I think like even the younger generation, like you ask them what they want to be when they're older and they're like an influencer, which I think is like so funny. But yeah, I think it's definitely a different way of life and there's a lot that can be done.
Hmm.
But I think that like my best piece of advice that I would tell someone like if you're thinking about changing is like don't do it because you think that there's a lot of money in it.
Hmm.
And if you're not willing to like I don't want to say sell your soul, but like kind of sell your soul to the content, like it's not going to just make you a millionaire. And so I
Right.
think that's where people, because we do have those like handful of influencers who did make it for whatever reason that, have millions and millions of dollars. And I think that's become like very glamorized a little bit,
Hmm.
but it's not really like the norm, I would say, for like the regular influencer. Like I would consider myself to be like a smaller influencer
Hmm.
and like I don't make a living from influencing at all.
Right.
And so I think people kind of like forget that and they see some of the glamour side of it and they just want to be an influencer for like money or opportunities. And I think that
Hmm.
that's kind of a like I don't know, just not the best way to go about it. Like what you said, instead of thinking about it that way, think about it in like how you can make your passion help other people with social media, I think would be
Mm.
much more beneficial than doing it for like monetary reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. It's really hard. Even having, a couple 100,000 followers, like it's absolutely work, not just the content itself is a whole job. But you do have to seek out partnerships with companies, with brands that are starting to change the way that they look. I mean, I do it for the intention of being an athlete, right?
Yeah,
And I look at sponsorships as you are sponsoring me as an athlete.
totally.
And a lot of times they want to act like they own you, and that is not okay. So you have
Yeah.
to like become an expert in understanding your brand, understanding your value, putting a dollar to that, right?
Mhm.
And what you can give as an output for a brand or another company to be intertwined because I think that we downplay the edge of marketing
Mhm.
highly, and a lot of these companies like to downplay it. But you're doing an exchange of product for free marketing for life,
Yeah.
um, and I want people out there to listen to this as you're looking for brands, that's very powerful. Companies spend millions and millions of dollars on marketing every single year. And
Mhm.
so if a brand reaches out to you or you have an interest in working with a brand, understand that the value of creating a lifelong piece of content for that company, for ads that could bring sales for an elongated period of time and live on your social media, there is real value in that.
Mhm.
Even if you have 10,000, followers, 20,000 followers, or
Totally.
2,000,
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's super empowering. So I want to go back to this boxing. So you're taking boxing at CSA.
Yeah.
Um, I have this saying, fight like a girl. And I actually really love to hear that you are still doing that. And are you doing privates with Amber? Is that what it is
Yes, yeah.
now?
I haven't done it in a while, like, since I moved here, I didn't because I jumped right into the open, so that was kind of, like, my priority, but then I told her,
Okay.
I was like, "After the open, I wanna kind of, like, get back into it because I was still a beginner, like, I didn't know, but I know that, like, my strength is there and my power is there, so, like, I really wanted to learn more
Yeah.
technique, so, yeah, I've been doing that with her.
Oh yeah, that's the perfect person. So shout out to Amber Librock.
Yes,
She's fighting on May 17th in San Jose for Fight Night at the Tech. She's an amazing human being, and yeah, she's got hands. Like that girl
yeah,
got hands.
yes.
Um, so I know you're in good hands. But when you every single day, like when you wake up and like you're fighting for your brand, you're fighting for your new life here in California. How has boxing helped you? Has it helped you be more empowered? Do you feel stronger? Do you feel like your confidence has changed? Like share with our audience like what boxing has done for you and all of that.
Yeah, I think, to kind of tie it back to what we were saying before about like trying something new, I really enjoy learning from people who are really good at their sport. And
Hmm.
so I think, like, for me, it's really become an opportunity to continue to grow in something that I don't feel confident in, and learn different styles of training. Cause like I came from a gym that was very heavy into Barry Robinson style training. And so in this gym, like, that's not really like, Coach K's MO.
Oh no, what happened?
No worries, I figured. Oh, she's
Oh
back.
no, what the heck? Is that me or is that Vic? Okay, all right, Coach Case. That's where you left off.
Yes, Coach K style training is definitely different. I haven't worked with him yet. I don't know that he, like, actually knows that I, like, box a little bit, so I'm, like, scared to ask him. Um, but yeah, I've seen his style and it's definitely different from where I came from. So I just love learning that. And I think
Hmm.
that in general empowers me to, kind of what we said, be open to other things and like have just an open mindset for whatever and like room for growth. Cause I think like one of the biggest things that can make you not be, I don't know, like you feel like you've learned it all. Like I could easily sit here and be like, "Oh, I've done CrossFit for 10 years. Like I know all there is to know." And I think there's people that
Right.
are like that. They feel like they've kind of reached the end. But I
Yeah.
feel like when you change your mindset from that to like there's so much more I could learn or there's so many different things I could learn, you just
Hmm.
become like this little sponge and you can just learn so much. And so I think for me that's really like what I enjoy about it, that I'm learning from someone who has probably been boxing, I don't know, for as long as I've been CrossFitting maybe. And
Yeah.
so like it's really empowering to learn, especially from a woman too. Like I love, love, love having a woman coach. I just think that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just like putting what I can do already into even better use, I think.
Yeah. So the key is leave the ego at the door.
Yeah,
You know
definitely.
nothing
I know nothing. Yeah. And I like
and
my
be a sponge.
yes, yes, and, like, my old coach would always tell me, like, "You're so brolic, like, just lighten up," and I'm like, "I don't know how." Like, you did show me how to do that. So, like, I have to just, like, remember that these people are there to teach me how to do something different than what I've always done, and I just think that's kinda
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I will say punching will change your life, ladies.
Yeah,
If you if you are in a shell person, you will become out of a shell person, and I support it 100% every single day. I always like I know it can be so intimidating. Like I've talked with girls and they're like, it's so scary and this and that, but you just got to get over that hump of the weirdness and you just got to learn because once you do, like it just invokes this certain part of you that you maybe not knew that existed within yourself.
yeah,
And I love that. I love seeing women like just completely feeling empowered by like hitting something.
Yes, I know. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's an entire market, just like one of those smash rooms or whatever. Have you been one of
Yes.
those?
I haven't been, but I've heard of them.
We
Yes.
should go. I just did a escape room, which
Oh,
was
I've been asking Delaney to do that with me, and she's like,
yeah,
"No,
you
I'm not
should
doing
do
that."
it. It's really fun.
Yes.
You really have to problem solve. It'll be good for you guys too. Like we went in a very weird, awkward family situation and it ended up like being the best thing because you're working together to solve a problem and you have a time frame to do it and it's really, really good relationship building. Love it. In a
Yes.
corporate setting too, if you haven't done it, the corporations should spend more money doing that with their teams.
Oh,
So
totally. I love an escape room.
so in terms of let's talk about that. So you told me that you met Delaney Laney in a boxing gym. And
Yeah.
so you're a thug. I only have thugs on my podcast. And every woman I have is a thug in her own way. And so I want to know how this happened with you and Laney, how it is being in a relationship with another woman versus a man. And I'm always intrigued by this and how women look at other men too, because some women, some of my friends are like, ew, I hate men. Like they're just nasty. They turn me off. And like women just understand me better. and
That's how I thought I was straight at first, because I thought that all women collectively agreed on this. Turns out that's not true. Yeah, I have always, I guess, been queer, you could say, like since a really young age. I just knew that I was non-judgmental. Like if you I've been attracted to girls, boys. Like if you were trans, I wouldn't judge. Like I was just very open.
okay.
And then I kind of got pushed into heteronormality because when I would have those sentiments around those other women who were like legitimately straight, I would like say things like, I just like men are just so gross. Like I find them so gross. And like, I just don't want to be like physical with men. And like all of my straight friends, who some of them were married, they were like, yeah, same. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I guess that's just like how it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so like I
Or
thought
not.
no, literally not. Like there are, yeah, no. So then I realized like, okay, I'm not straight at all. So sorry, jokes on me. But then yeah, I realized like I would say it was probably when I was like 25, I realized like I actually don't like men at all. And that's
Ah.
yeah, and it's funny because I tried to like convince myself of it. And I was like in a situation where like everyone was kind of like gaslighting me into thinking like, no, like most women think that about their husbands, like they don't really want to sleep with them, they're kind of gross, like whatever. So I was just like, oh well, I guess this is just like married life, I guess this is like how it rolls.
Wow.
And when I left that and then I started like pursuing only women, I realized like I could never be with a man again, there's no way. um
Wow.
it is so different that it's hard to even like put into words, especially if you've only been with men.
Mhm.
But I would say after being in like multiple serious relationships with women, there is confidently no way that I could ever date a man afterwards. And I think part of that really comes down to friendship.
Mm.
And I'm sure just even as a straight woman, you understand, or if you're straight, I don't even know, but if
Yes.
yeah, a straight woman. If you have your girlfriends who are like your best friends, and that
Mhm.
bond is very, very, very difficult to recreate with a man, just because, like you said, like women understand women. Um,
Yeah.
and funny enough, like that's like I said with Delaney, when we first met, like we really were friends, and we had
Mhm.
built a friendship through boxing, through fitness, and then she was a paramedic. Now she's going to be a firefighter paramedic, and then
Oh, cool.
I came from a police background, so like we had that like first responder kind of thing in common, and we had just
Mm.
a lot of like very just like friendship things in common. And while we were friends for the entire year at the gym, before
Mhm.
we ended up deciding to date and then I left, it was built on that very, very strong friendship bond,
Yeah.
exactly as it would be with your best female friend.
Mhm.
And so like when you elevate that into a relationship, it really is like an amplified best friend. Like I had a
Right.
hard time with men ever feeling like they were my best friend. I just always struggle with that personally. And so
Mm.
like being with a woman is like Delaney is my best friend of all time. And like we
Yeah.
have like inside jokes, we laugh our asses off. Like I love hanging out with her. Whereas like when I was with a man, it was always like, oh, like I want to kind of like do my own thing, or like I want to go with my friends. Like I never felt like I wanted to like be like in their skin. And like
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I feel that because like outside of anything relationship wise, like when I'm telling her stuff, like to give her the tea, I'm like calling her. I'm like, you got to hear this, you know? So like, it's kind of that duality of like my best friend in the world, but then also like I love her more than anything. So it's
Yeah.
a different depth of like friendship, honestly.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that perspective. I've always been intrigued. Now, don't take me as ignorant or what have you, but I grew up in the Midwest, so it wasn't like a natural thing to
Totally.
be around gay couples, around trans people. It wasn't. So
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of my years like trying to understand where people are coming from and how they view the relationship. And it's so I like how you put that because I have two three best friends that we've been friends 15, 20 years. And yeah, you're right. Like I can be my most raw, authentic, non-embarrassed self with my girlfriends that I have in my small circle. They've
Mhm.
seen multiple versions of me. They understand things that I'm going through. I'm not saying I'm going to be gay now. I'm just saying like I understand
Yeah, you get
where
that.
you're coming
Yeah,
from
yeah,
and the comfortability that comes along with that, right?
yeah.
Because it probably becomes a sexual attractive thing too as well because you once you get to that when you strip away all those pieces of like not feeling like enough or feeling like you got to hide who you are with someone that becomes so beautiful and I think that's what life
100%.
is all about, right? It's just
Absolutely.
understanding.
Yes,
So
hands down. And I think like one of my thoughts, even as a kid, and I find this so interesting because, you know, my mom raised me Catholic. I was raised Italian Catholic, like very
mm,
homophobic house.
woo,
Yeah. So like I didn't understand from like I knew in middle school that I liked girls and I knew that. And it's funny because you know like that whole generation, especially like our parents' generation, they always would say like sexuality is a choice. And like as
mhm,
someone who grew up like that, I know wholeheartedly that it's not because it wasn't taught to me. Like being attracted to like my or my middle school English teacher, which was my first like gay crush, I no one taught me that. Like that was just something that I felt inside. And so like when I had
happen.
to explain that, yeah, to my mom, like she knew I was telling the truth because like I wouldn't have learned that from anyone I was like 10 or 11, you know?
Yeah,
So
especially
like
in fucking North Carolina.
that was even in Florida, so it was
Oh,
worse.
in Florida, yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in
Very
Bible Belt in
yes,
general, like
very anti-gay. Yeah, so it was really hard for my mom as well, but I think like once she understood that like I really was being 100% honest and like I think
mm,
unfortunately, you know, like with the religion side of things, I think it sets this like rules and these boundaries on people as humans. Whereas, like, I really believe in my heart truly that sexuality is a spectrum. I don't think that like there's just one or the other. Like, I really
mm,
feel that people kind of fall somewhere in between. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you're straight and you've only been with men, like, you know, you might be on this side, but like maybe you have, or you've thought about maybe being with women, but you're still straight. Like you could still be
mm,
straight, but like you're still kind of a little bit more on the spectrum, or like vice versa, you know, kind of
yeah,
like the autism spectrum. Like there's a wide variety of ways that people
right,
identify as things. And I just think that like because of the way that society has just evolved and saying like there's only
mm,
one or this way, or there's only this or this, it doesn't
yeah,
leave room for a lot of people to explore any other option. So they feel like they have to choose one and be one.
yeah,
And I just don't really, I've never agreed with that. So like the more that I was open about it, the easier it was because then I
mm.
realized like actually really don't like men that much. Like I don't know what the fuck I was doing. Like
I lo
I don't really. So what am I doing here? And it was honest.
Yeah.
Like I
No,
just
I think that's great.
never
There's not one direction that you have to go. I remember in St. Louis, this was like 13, this was before I had my son. And my friend Nick, shout out to Nick, wherever you are in the world, he ended up being the one that helped me get in Wells Fargo. But he was gay, and you wouldn't know by just meeting him that he was gay. He was very straight in the way he dressed and the way he talked. Right? You would just never know, but he was gay. And one day, like I came over to his house and I'm like, man, I'm curious, like, why are you gay? You know what I mean? Like,
he's
and
like, I don't
girls were
know.
always all over him. And then, we had the conversation of, being gay and being born gay. And I said, why? I just don't believe that. Like, I believe that like something happened to you in your life and you became attracted or something happened, and you decided to be this way. And he's like, we talked for hours about it. And then he said something to me and he was like, Desiree, he was like, and he was not offended, you guys, at all. Like he was so kind in how he educated me about the world that he lived in. And it really opened my eyes to how he was living. And so he was like, Des, do you think, and he was from Kuwaiti. He was Kuwaiti. He
Oh,
was from
wow.
Kuwait. Okay. So you know
Yeah.
that it is not, it's very frowned upon in that world to be open like that about your sexuality. And he's like, do you think that telling my family and my peers and all of this and all the heartbreak and things that have come along with being gay, do you think I want to do that? Like, do you think I want to live like that in isolation and fear and not being able
Yeah.
to share? Because he was much older when he came out about being gay. And I was like taken really back, Amanda, about that. And I'm like, yeah, like no one asks to be live in this secret world of hiding of being gay.
Yeah.
And it really, yeah, it just really helped me understand like you know, his perspective and about that and his lifestyle because it was very foreign to me. I was very
Yeah.
judgy about it. And like, you know, I grew up with a military dad and like talking,
Totally.
saying the F word, right? Like
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
a very common thing
Mhm.
growing up that you heard.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
my family as well. And something I always ask people too that have that thing. I've had this conversation with family members, with people who have, been homophobic in the past or just
mhm.
curious. And one thing I always say is I was like, did you like wake up one morning and decide like, hey, I'm gonna like men. Like I'm gonna be straight. And
Yeah.
like everyone's like, no, I just am. And I'm like, okay, exactly. I never, when I was 10 or 11, I never was like, oh, I think I'm gonna like my English teacher and make my mom have a stroke. It really, really, it was how I felt. And like, I think, my mom at the time, she was probably like, oh, it's a phase, it's a phase. And it's hard, I would say, because, probably like your friend, I'm more straight presenting. Like, people
Mhm.
don't normally assume that I'm gay right off the bat. And so like, I've had a lot of that, like, oh, you just haven't been with the right guy, that you look like all that gaslighting. And it's just interesting because it comes from a place, in my opinion, of like that, very religious man is supposed to be with woman. And if we take that out of it, what else is there that would say that man is supposed to be with woman? Like what
Mm.
outside of the religion aspect of it, truly for like procreation purposes, especially in today's day and age, because we can procreate with the turkey baster if we really want to. But like, outside of the religion, like why not? And like
Yeah.
every person I've talked to, they really can't give me an answer because in animals, like so many species are homosexual and they weren't taught that. They weren't taught religion. Some are and some aren't. And I just think it's
Mhm.
fascinating because like if you remove the religion aspect of it, I think it was never a thing. I still think
Mm.
some people, would be straight, but some people wouldn't be, but it really wouldn't be any different than like, oh, you have blonde hair, you have dark hair.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just an interesting, perspective shift, but I think it's great that you were open to like hearing that because I do
Yeah.
think a lot of people think that like we choose to be that way and make our lives harder, and I definitely did not.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I love that you guys are like unapologetically about your life and it looks like so happy and bubbly and love to see that. And so maybe, you know, in society today, I know there's like been fads and things for people to be gay and be bisexual and like explore these things. And I don't know, TikTok and all this stuff, like if they're just doing it to be with the social norms now, or they're doing it because that's how they really feel. But for those that are out there, especially young women that may be having these thoughts or maybe having these things, like where can they lean to start uncovering in a healthy way, right? What their
Yeah.
sexuality is and what their preferences are, and doing that in a safe place.
Totally. And I think that's really what inspired me to start sharing that on social media because I wish that I had that when I was younger to like
Mm,
look at people who were okay with exploring different things and just to really understand that there's nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. Like I think that's something that society has tried to shame women, especially feminine women for. And it's because they don't really fit into a box. Like, my mom was like, what are you gonna do? Cut your hair off? Like she was like that. And I was like, no, like I still am very girly. I just like very girly girls also. I don't know what to tell you.
yeah.
And so like there's nothing wrong, I think. And if you can find like a group of like-minded people or like explore some LGBTQ like social media pages or like myself, you can follow me. Or like, YouTube people on YouTube or TikTok. There's just so many great people out there that are so like open to sharing their journeys that I think it
Mm,
makes people feel a little less alone because there's other people who have gone through that similar, thing. I mean, even myself included. Like I was like, am I gay, like when I was like, I don't like men. And
Yeah.
like it is a question that you ask yourself. And like a lot of people also ask themselves that question. So it's very, very, it's a lot more common than I think people realize, honestly. So
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like, and this may be a very controversial question, but do you feel like people take being gay too far? Like
um
like there are people that are
like it's their
super.
own person, like the only thing that is like they're just gay and that's like their whole
Yeah, but they're
personality.
super like everything about them, the way they talk, they're very flamboyant. They're very like, or, depending, I don't know, because I don't know this world, but like, do you feel like people are fake who they are because they feel like socially, because they're gay, they have to act a certain way
Yeah, I would say I'm
like
sure
that?
people struggle with that for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen even like women who like when they were gay, like they came out as gay, that then
Mm,
they wanted to like change how they dress because they felt that it would like make them seem more gay.
mm,
And I think that's interesting too, because I've seen some women who are like super feminine like me, and then they went through like a more masculine phase and they were like, oh, it doesn't really align with me. Like I just want to be me. And so I think
mm.
that's great representation to say like you don't really have to be like a certain way, and
Yeah.
I don't mean to be like insensitive when I relate it to the autism spectrum, but I do, because we fall on a spectrum in sense of people have said the same thing, like, oh, you don't look autistic or you don't do this and this, and it's like, well, that's because everyone's different and
Hmm.
everyone expresses themselves and everyone struggles with something in a different way. And so like there's tons of different ways for I think people to like express their sexuality that doesn't
Mm,
have to conform with like something on they see on the internet. Like you don't have to have short hair. You don't have to be like a super flamboyant gay, like, what you're
hmm.
thinking of to be gay. I'm sure some
Yeah.
people maybe feel that way, or some people really just are that way. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to know, I guess, but
Yeah.
I'm sure people struggle with that too.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, because like Nick, he was a really good example of that because like I said, you'd look at this guy, you wouldn't know he's gay, and that's just like his sexuality doesn't have to become who we are as in a totality, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's really good to I think share with people out there that may be considering where their sexuality is going. Like, hey, just because you are this way doesn't mean you have to act, talk, and be this way. Like still be your unique self, even though
Yeah.
you have this different component about you.
Yeah, totally. And I don't think there's anything that like is they're going to do that's going to change how they feel on the inside anyway. Like,
Yeah.
we can project all we want in certain ways, but like it's really important that people just listen to how they feel on the inside, because like
Hmm.
that's what's going to lead them to their ultimate like true selves, and not trying to
Hmm.
follow what they think it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I be getting my makeup tips from these gay boys on Instagram, and they fucking be beating that face, okay? So I don't have any judgments. I don't have anything. Please show me how to do it, because
Yeah, and it's funny that, just, like, as one other note too about that, my first girlfriend actually, is now trans, and
okay.
when we dated back then, I don't know, I hope this isn't insensitive, but, like, she at the time, now he, but she, we would talk about her early childhood development, and she told me then that when they were in like, preschool, kindergarten, they would, like, have meltdowns about wearing dresses, and, like, they
Mm.
they told their mom that they were a boy when they were like 3 or 4. And
Oh,
so like and I watched her like years. I mean, I've known her since I was 16, okay? So I'm
yeah.
31 now. And I saw everything that she went through, and I truly like that was one thing, being so close to someone who struggled with that. Like I really really truly believe that like she was born that way. Like at 3 or 4, how do you tell your mom that you're a boy? Like I just don't understand. And so when I watched her go through that, and now to see
Mm.
him as his true self and see that, like, it's so I just think people who haven't experienced a loved one like go through something like that, it's hard for them to fathom. Just like what you were
Yeah.
saying about like the boys doing makeup, some of those
Mhm.
boys when they were little, like they loved makeup and dresses, and no one taught
Yeah.
them that, and like they don't know how to understand that until they get older, and then maybe they realize that they're gay, or Cameron's situation, they're trans. And so like
Mhm.
I've seen that from like true authentic people who have been like since they're little. And so I
Mhm.
just have so much more empathy, I think, than like,
Yeah.
my mom or like that generation, because like they do think that it can be like a choice or like something to follow a trend, but like
Yeah.
it really truly is not for so many people.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Um, So I always like to kind of close things out and give a lesson that we learned today and give what the relationship with martial arts and fighting. And, I practice Muay Thai. There's a lot of respect and honor within the sport. And so I think today we learned that fighting like a girl doesn't necessarily have to look and fit in the mold of what society tells us, and we can be in our unique space and do the things that we want. Doesn't matter on our gender, our sexuality, or anything like that. And in Muay Thai and in fighting, it kind of applies the same way with who you are as a fighter, right? Because we develop these personalities within fighting
Mhm.
and how we want to be in the ring and how we show up when we're facing an opponent. And so I think there's a really cool little synchronicity between what we've been kind of talking about, and that is, finding your own groove and your own flow and your own uniqueness, I guess, or identity within being a fighter. And so for people out there that are struggling to find your identity, looking for and watching people like Amanda that have gone through these different changes in your life and applying that to martial arts is really beautiful. So I feel like there is this beautiful similarity between your story and what it takes to go through a journey as a fighter and find your identity within a fighter.
Yeah, for
So I'll
sure.
let that be our lesson for today. And in terms of where we can find you, Amanda, please share with us how we can find you, how we can hire you as a nutrition or a coach, and what that looks like from your social media platforms.
Yeah, well, like you said, I coach at CrossFit CSA. I coach the kids and the adults. And then I have a YouTube channel. It's Simply Mander. And then my Instagram is the same, Simply Mander, same on TikTok. And I work for Black Iron Nutrition. So if anyone needs a nutrition coach or help prepping for a fight, I do that as well. And then my app is simplymander.app.
Love it. Love it. Okay. And then I didn't do a fan engagement this time, but you have a myth busting section on
Oh,
your Instagram.
yes.
So you mentioned one earlier, but give us 3 myth busting tips that are on top of your mind right now.
Okay, so
Could be
people
fitness, life, makeup, whatever.
okay. So one would be that you don't have to lose weight to be better at gymnastics. For some reason,
Oh,
that's very common. People think like they need to lose weight to be better at muscle ups or something like that.
oh.
That's one. Two would be Hmm. I guess maybe like that you can wear a full face of makeup to the gym. Like that, I don't know if that's like a myth, but like people think like you can't do that or like you shouldn't do that. But like fuck it, who cares? Like we both do that. I think you should do it if it makes you feel better. And I think the third one would be you don't have to be like people think that you have to be fit to start CrossFit or like you have to be at a certain level. Maybe they
Ooh.
think that for MMA as well or Muay Thai. I don't really know like the levels there, but
Mm-hmm.
I think people think they have to be a certain way before they start something. And
Ooh.
I completely disagree. Like you can be a complete beginner to start literally anything, and it's better than not starting at all. So
Ooh, love it. And 100% agree. CrossFit is the biggest make modification sport that you
yeah,
can.
for sure.
There's always a modification that we can make so that you can finish the WOD. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
Well, you have been an absolute pleasure. I am so glad that I asked you to come on the show today. And I will see you at the gym. And you guys remember, the goal here is to be unconventional, and there's nothing wrong with that. So keep doing the things that you're doing, Amanda, and we'll see you soon then.
Yay. Thank you.